Welcome back to On the Perf podcast, brought to you by Atlas Gunworks. Today, we are going to address some questions that I've had on my YouTube channel. We're going to run through them one at a time. Pretty much every single comment left on my channel in the form of a question we're going to talk about right now. Bloody hell. Eusti, E-A-U-S-T-I. How the heck do you think that's spelled? Pronounced?
I am not reading people's names.
Yeah. All right. Well,
you guys
do
pick
what
some
you want.
Messed up stuff.
I'm going to give him a reasonable shout out here. So anyways, it says, I am 21 and interested in getting into the sport. Any advice for a newbie? Well, being 21 has nothing to do with it, but good job. You can buy all the things, so that's super handy.
I would say it has everything to do with it. That's how I got it.
Well, it has everything to do with it if it's once the pistols are involved, but you can certainly get into it much, much younger if your parents are willing. Reasonably, well, it depends a little bit on if you're going to start with 3-gun or USPSA. I would recommend starting with USPSA because it is a third of the amount of shenanigans because there's less guns involved. All of the safety rules are going to be more strict. So if you are doing stuff that's fine in USPSA, it's fine in 3-gun, but the inverse isn't necessarily true. But really the shortest answer is show up. Find out where locally you can go to a match. Show up there, bring whatever gun you have with whatever holsters you have. If you have a reasonable outside the waistband holster, or you're shooting from appendix or whatever it is, a couple of mag pouches, a Glock, a SIG, a CZ, doesn't matter. Go shoot your first match. You could legitimately roll up to a match at our local club and raise your hand during the shooters meeting at the beginning of the match and say, hey, I want to try this sport and I don't have anything. And 5 people will get into a fist fight in the parking lot over who gets to loan you their backup gear. It is that kind of sport. So honestly, just show up. I wouldn't buy anything before you go to your first match because everything that I bought in my first year of shooting, I no longer use.
Yes.
I got rid of it. I got rid of everything.
Which is super easy to say, right? Like, because people get into this because they want to, because they like the gear and they like the stuff, right? But yes, step one, absolutely show up. Now, I don't know that Adam actually knows this, but I actually sat on the fence for about a year of quote unquote practicing to start competition. All right. And I can tell you that everything I did in that time was absolutely a waste of time. Which doesn't make any sense to anyone outside the sport. But yeah.
You don't need to be good enough to show up. Nope. That's not a thing.
Nope.
That's not a thing.
Absolutely not.
As long as you can safely handle a gun, you're good enough.
And you would have to be really outgoing to do this. You're probably more outgoing than me. But like really all you need to do is show up with some factory 9mm ammunition from a major manufacturer. Federal, Winchester, MagTech. Something you could buy at Cabela's that people would recognize as commercial ammo that you bought. If you show up with commercial 9mm Luger ammo and say, hey, I'm just getting started, can I shoot your gun? People would let you. Yeah. Legit.
Yeah. Like, scarily. Because everybody wants to show off their gun. Like, people are very proud of their stuff. And so, through that process of just showing up and shooting people's guns, you're going to meet people, you're going to try different guns, you're going to have a better understanding of what the different divisions are. That will give you an idea of where you want to go in the sport. That will help you inform purchases.
Yeah.
If you want to go, straight into 3-gun, you have to have some sort of an understanding of how the divisions there translate to the divisions in USPSA and so on and so forth. But I would say a USPSA match, and if you have a gun, bring it. If you don't, just show up with some ammo, some eyes and some earplugs, and that's it.
Yep. And the other thing too is it's pretty rare that people at the gun store or on YouTube are going to give you good advice on competition gear to buy. Is they think they as gun people, they think they understand what competition people want. And even when I was working in a retail gun store, like only a couple of those guys could really give good advice, or the good ones would really like, you need to talk to Adam. But yeah, and I would also say, also in that same vein, like I would approach the pistol sports first, whether it's IDPA, USPSA, PCSL. I would approach the pistol side first because one, pick one, a single gun sport to try and learn the sport of action shooting. All right, because if you think of 3-gun as like, I don't know, playing blackjack or poker, all right, but it's in Vegas, all right. Playing a 1-gun sport is more like playing blackjack with your friends, right? Like it's just a smaller state. There's less going on for you to learn the game before you're in a huge casino with all that stuff going on, which is kind of what 3-gun is, because there's 3 times as much equipment, there's 3 times the ammunition, the stages are 3 times bigger, like everything's bigger. So picking a 1-gun sport is much easier to wrap your arms around. And currently, pistol shooting is more accessible. There's more of it going on, probably close to you, and it's more accessible from a gear standpoint, from a club standpoint, from an event standpoint, and from a cost standpoint. Is probably the easiest version of the sport to approach at an entry level.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. We're trying to get this one. I'm going to try to keep this episode short. Maxwell's got stuff to do. Okay, this is from Romeo Charlie Practical. It says, this one's right up your alley, Maxwell. I have a question as far as dot feedback. I pretty much never see any dot movement, but I see it upon presentation to the targets. It makes it hard to call shots. I'm target focused, and even occluded, I've only seen the dot move once in probably 2,000 rounds. Any advice? Can't find much about not seeing feedback from the dot. Perhaps I'm so narrowly focused that I just don't see it. And I did have a correspondence back and forth with this guy and sent some kind of follow-up questions because the way he worded that left some stuff open.
Yeah, that was choppy.
He doesn't see the dot move. He just sees it disappear, and then he sees it come back.
Oh, so you can see everything you need to see, and the rest of it doesn't matter.
Exactly correct. So people talk about seeing the sights lift or seeing the dots lift. If you know where the dot was the moment the gun went off, and the dot comes back in the same place, that's all you need. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Honestly, yeah, that's all you need. As you get better and better and you get more used to it and you have more rounds to the gun, you will perceive more information, but you're definitely not watching the dot. You're just kind of aware of where it's at as you're focused on the targets and you're moving from place to place. But if you're I think his question is more in the way that this has been phrased to him from other people. But if you see it disappear when the gun goes off and you see it arrive back on the target, like, that's all the information you actually need.
Yeah, a lot of people say stuff around this that doesn't actually make sense. You have the components that you want. Or, like, contemporarily, green dots are kind of becoming more popular. There's green dot products on the market. And so people will debate red dot versus green dot, blah, blah, blah. Tell you that to tell you this. Every time someone explains to me why they like a green dot, it's more contrast. It stands out better. It looks cleaner, blah, 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 blah. Every characteristic they describe is something that comes from them either looking at the dot or the dot attracting their attention. Which is exactly the opposite of what you want. Like
not what you want.
Yeah, the idea is to be target focused and be aware of where the dot is. If you're looking at that dot, you're wrong. You're just wrong. So I would not fret at all. You have all the component pieces. In fact, you're doing the part that's the hardest to teach somebody, and that's to look at the target. So, So go on with your bad self.
Exactly. All right. Man, I am super regretting reading off names. This is Rue Bien Bu O3XX81. Why did you let me start down this road?
Schoolgirl
It says
69.
it says why is there a sandbag? He didn't spell sand correctly, but I assume that's what he meant. Why is there a sandbag attached to your gun? Is that a requirement for the stage or something to give you a little advantage? So this was from a video where I was shooting an open division rifle with a little bag attached to my rail in the front from a supported position. I think I was shooting through a car window. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyways, so sandbags on rifles, that is occasionally a thing that we'll use in open division because there's kind of no rules. If you can carry it to the start line, you can use it.
There are no
and
rules.
and a sandbag that is attached to your rifle, like in PRS shooting, you have a bag in one hand and a rifle in the other hand. That's a big fat no-go in 3-gun. Things happen way too fast. There's no time for any of that. So we will occasionally have a bag attached to the front of our rifle. It's usually a very light fill bag, so it weighs like less than a throw pillow on your couch by like a fifth. So they're very light. They aren't very cumbersome. They don't really add any swing weight to the rifle, but what they do is a couple things. One, they add a little bit of height in a place where you might need it. So if you're shooting from a weirdly shaped rock, shooting off of a car door through a car and out the other side is a very common place where people will shoot the other door because they don't have enough height in order to avoid shooting the other door, and then they have mystery misses downrange. And it adds a little bit of stability, not a ton, but there is definitely a recognizable difference between having a bag under your rifle and not having a bag under your rifle. I pack one to every major match, and I bet I use it on 1 or maybe 2, usually 0 stages per match.
Yeah, and think of it this way. If you're given a prop to shoot off of or around in a match, somebody somewhere thought that would be an awkward thing to shoot off of. So adding things like bags or bipods or various types of support devices is trying to build in some stability into something that was intended to be unstable. So like, a rooftop prop or something like that, it's either slick or it's pointy. You can't really get it in a good spot. If you can add something like a sandbag that is going to, it's almost liquid in that it kind of free forms around whatever this thing is to give you a flat spot and some cushion, so that you can get a positive plant on the rifle to get steady and then maybe even absorb some recoil. That's a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage versus just, metal on wood sliding around. It's an advantage sometimes if you can use it and if you have the right bag.
And it depends on what you're shooting at as well. If everything that's going to add stability comes at the cost of a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. I don't know that sandbags in the grand scheme of things cost that much time, but there is a time component to making sure that bag lands on that thing as opposed to the 4 under your rifle lands on that thing. And then in and out, it can snag on things. There's a little bit of a risk to it, but there is a level of difficulty in a shot where I'm definitely going to lean towards a bag or a bipod in open division where in easier stuff like in PCSL where there's an 8-minute size restriction on targets, almost never. Well, you can't in that. But I basically would never run a bag in PCSL because I don't think the stability you gain is worth the extra faff for the stage.
Generic example, like a typical like plywood barricade of some kind that has like some shapes and steps cut out of it. If you were required to shoot from a barricade at a 50-yard plate rack, we would probably not use a sandbag. If we had to shoot off that same barricade at a 600-yard target, we would probably be trying to add a bag in there or something.
I'm using everything I can bring. Yeah. All right. Platoon Guide says, what distance are you going predictive, and at what distance are you taking K-zone pistol shots? I'm currently doing that at 5 yards, can only afford monthly matches and dry fire, no place to shoot live practice at speed. Predictive shooting depends on a lot of things. So from a perfect, like I'm just standing there and I draw the gun and I rip 2 out, basically, I don't know, all things considered, 10 yards, I can shoot like predictive pairs. So let's back up really quick. What he means by predictive, for those who don't know, predictive shooting is essentially what people refer to as a double tap or a hammer pair, or what it really is you are seeing the dot the first time and you are pulling the trigger twice, predicting that your stance, your grip, your recoil control is going to lead to the sights coming back onto the target before the second round goes off. Now, that doesn't mean that you only see the sights once. You are seeing the sights leave the target on both shots, but you are not waiting for the dot to return in order to start the trigger press the second time. So you're seeing the dot once, you're ripping 2 shots, you are recording mentally where the dot left the target from the second time the gun went off to ensure that you have an A zone or a C zone hit or whatever is appropriate for that stage. So you are predicting that you can go blah, blah, and get to alphas. Reactive shooting, on the other hand, is you are reacting to the dot both times. You see the dot, you press the trigger, the dot lifts, the dot returns, you see the dot where you want it to be, you press the trigger again. I would say predictive shooting is splits under 18. If you're shooting splits under 18, you are for sure not seeing the dot twice, and anybody who tells you that they are is lying to you. How far you can go out with that depends on the type of stance that you can develop on that spot. So if I'm shooting a lean or something like that, the distance that I can shoot predictive pairs on shrinks. Perfect setup, 10 yards with a pistol, something along those lines. It kind of depends on the target presentation and everything else as well. As far as K-zone hits, super depends. There's not at this distance, I shoot 1 in the K-zone instead of 2 alphas in PCSL. That is not a format that exists inside my head. It depends on the targets around it, the round count. Can a couple K-zone shots save me a reload somewhere? Is it actually going to be faster to take a more well-aimed shot at a K-zone than just rip 2 A's on the way past a target? I mean, sometimes point-blank muzzle step targets still get 2 because you can shoot those at a dead sprint where you need to aim for a K-zone. So the answer, like most things in the shooting sports, is it depends. What would you say, Maxwell?
So I have so much to unpack there. I'm worried I'm going to forget it all. So predictive shooting. Predictive shooting is something
This is not going to be a short episode like we had hoped, is it?
No. So predictive shooting is a method of explaining or teaching what I'll call like various levels of sight confirmation, right? Because as the target gets closer, we need to see less and less from it to get the hit that we need, and it's somewhat of a technique to convey that. I don't really subscribe to the predictive shooting school. I think that a conscious control of speed is always an error. So if you are deciding to predictively shoot at something, you have predetermined how fast you're going to shoot it. You know, you're going to get a sight picture and shoot at a predetermined speed. I shoot at the speed that the sights allow me to shoot. And how much I need to see on the sights depends. But I don't know that I particularly shoot, I don't look at a stage and I'm going to shoot this predictive, I'm going to shoot that reactive. I don't look at it that way. I'm thinking in terms of how much sight do I need to see to get the hit that I need. And furthermore, predictive shooting is somewhat the product of or is trained with the drill of doubles. I think doubles is the closest thing currently in our sport to ballistic masturbation. Most people shooting doubles, it is an effective tool. It can teach a lot of stuff. There is stuff I have learned. When I had, in my job, I had 10,000 rounds to shoot, and so I had to do it in 2 days. I did a lot of doubles shooting, and I did learn some stuff that I wouldn't have learned any other way. But it is the smallest gain that you could possibly get on the leanest bone you could possibly find. All right? Predictive shooting, you're trying to find 5/100ths of a second. All right? And if you get to the point where you're trying to find 5/100ths of a second on a stage, man, you better have a sub-second draw. You better have a sub-second reload. There's so many more places in a stage where you can find time that if that's what you're down to, man, you're in a really good spot. So I don't predictively shoot. I don't use a lot of doubles in my training. I'm reading the sights, and the sights, it doesn't mean I'm married to them. It doesn't mean I'm over confirming them, but I'm shooting as fast as the sights let me shoot for the hit that I need. If the hit that I need is only 3 yards away, pretty much squaring my hips to it could probably get me the hit that I need, but I'm still getting some confirmation on the sights where that bullet landed. For the cases...
Okay, so hang on one second. So backing up, to put this in time frame, we are 1 week past PCSL Two-Gun Nationals, which me and Maxwell both shot.
Yep.
On the belt stage, shout out Hunter.
Oh.
The last three targets on the ground at your knees.
Okay, yep. That's...
Did you see a red dot in the alpha on all three of those for all 6 shots?
No, I saw a red backslash is what I saw.
Yeah. So,
but I saw that thing flashing through the window, because that's the magic of the red dot. If you see the color in there, you know it's lined up. So you just need some confirmation of color. And Stagger and some of those other guys, they talk about that too. They're getting flash of color, maybe bouncing dot, stopped and stable dot, some of what they're talking about there. And so I shot the match twice in 2 divisions. All right, so I shot the pre-match and I shot the regular match in 2 divisions. So I had 2 goes at that stage. And little known fact, we did some YouTube filming on that stage the Monday after, so I actually shot that stage several times. And the first time through, I went through and I was really trying to just and just mow through a bunch of pairs. And what did we get? Got some trigger freeze. So when I came through the second time, I kind of indexed on the head, and if I called a bad shot, I shot again, or I knew I was coming back. So if I bang, 1 was good, 2 was iffy, 3 was good, 4 was good, come back to 2. And you could do that in about the time, that it would, so that was 1 string. But it is another level of visual confirmation. But at the same time, like, people were trying, in that particular instance, so for those who weren't there, it's essentially a target that's, we'll say 2 arms length away from you. There's 3 targets 2 arms length away from you, and there's one that's 3 arms lengths away from you. So pretty easy shot, marksmanship wise. So people were trying to do it super fast, but people were trying to do it so fast that they messed it up. And so there, I do actually think it was maybe worth going for a K, just because people were trying to shoot so fast that they locked up. But as an engagement strategy, normally, I think the level of care and confirmation you need to get a K-zone is probably not worth the time it takes versus shooting twice at a much, 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 I'll give you another much bigger A-zone. Unless strategy-wise it makes sense. Like, you have an ammo management problem, right? You're trying to get around a reload, you're trying to get through a position, or you just came in there and you just saw that you zipped one in the head, So in PCSL targets, for the most part, differing from USPSA, because the A zone is higher and there's a K zone in it, I'm really trying to index more on what would be the human equivalent of the throat area, because this is an audio platform. So kind of the throat area is the middle of the A zone. And if I throw them a little bit high, I might get a K zone. But if I throw them low, I'm not out a whole lot. But I'm really shooting 2As most of the time, unless there's some strategy reason that saving the ammo will help me.
So sneak peek for next year as well. Max Leograndis showed off the new PCSL targets for 2025 at the match, and the A zone will no longer extend all the way into the head starting next year. So there will be a separate A zone, then some C zone, then back into the A zone for the head, sort of like a USPSA target. So that strategy is going to change, but I don't think it'll impact a whole lot because the A zone is still way bigger than the K zone, and outside of very, very rare circumstances, I'm still going to try to shoot 2 alpha because I think it's, especially if you're shooting 1K and you get just outside the K zone, then you have an alpha Mike, which I ate one of in the match, and that stung real bad. But if you shoot alpha Charlie, you're just down 2 points instead of 15.
Yeah.
So,
or if they give you an obstructed target where they like try to give you like a very obstructed A zone and that K zone is hanging out there, because the K zone is worth 2 alpha, I might shoot a faster pair at it than I would on a comparable USPSA target where it's a much smaller A zone and you still have to get 2 hits on it. So I might speed up a little bit there, kind of hoping that one of those is a K if I call kind of a sloppy shot.
Yeah, I've definitely shot some very aggressive head pairs, being like, one of those is in the middle. Like, we're going to be all right. All right. Unvaccinated 100% says, why not do this under night vision, tough guy? That's because this is a sport that takes place in the daytime. So night vision doesn't make any sense.
There's the whole $20,000 thing.
Yeah. Also that. Also, we're not SEALs, we're not Delta, we're none of those things. I'm not clearing my house with night vision.
Shooting under night vision is cool if you have a facility to do it, which is rare. If you have the equipment that's good to do it, which is also rare. In 2024, as accessible as night vision is right now, it is still very cost prohibitive to have any sort of sustainable sport around night vision shooting.
Let's be clear. If I lived on a farm in Texas and we had a hog problem and I could shoot hogs under night every night, I would for sure own night vision and a less nice truck. But I live in Utah. We don't have a hog problem, and I'm not going to drop 20 G's on some, dual tubes.
Well, and in the Midwest here, almost all the ranges don't let you shoot after dark. There's a lot of ordinances around that kind of thing and just club rules. I have access to an indoor range and I have access to night vision that I didn't have to buy. There's only so much you can do at an indoor range before it's like, yep, we're shooting under night vision. Sweet.
Did the things. Yep. It's a little bit harder to walk around. All right. Robert Greiner, 297, asked, who the hell is blowing a shotty from inside a vehicle? So I think this was on a video that I posted about shooting the open division shotgun from inside a van, talking about how weird positions change recoil control. To answer your question, 3-gun shooters all the time. This is super standard. Shooting a shotgun from inside a vehicle happens all the time.
We're tired of shooting standing up isosceles on a square range, so we put each other in the most awkward positions we can think of, and then we keep score. That's the game.
Exactly correct.
If that
like the whole game.
If that appeals to you, you could be one of us, and we would love to be your friend.
Yeah, come on over. It's like a lot of fun. All right, Delta Alpha Kilo says, what is your PCC gun? I've been shooting strictly CO, looking to get into PCC. So I want to clarify something really quick, because there is a misconception that I am a PCC shooter. The reason this happened is I shot Utah State with the PCC, which is the only USPSA match I have ever shot with the PCC, and I did so because my pistol was clapped and I was having all kinds of issues and I just didn't want to deal, and I didn't particularly care about my result in the state match. I thought it'd be fun, so I did it. But The saying, you can build 1,000 bridges and they might call you a bridge builder, but you have sex with one goat.
I feel like that's literally gonna say that similar analogy.
I feel like that's what happened. Like, I shot one match in the PCC and now I'm a goat fucker. Like, I don't understand. So anyways, no, I actually do enjoy shooting PCC, and I might do it a little bit more in the future, because one of the problems I have as a 3-gun shooter in open division, where I have a slide ride dot on a 9 minor open gun, none of my guns make any sense in USPSA. So my PCC is kind of the only one that I have that actually like scores normal in the division I'd want to shoot. I shoot a JP GMR 15. If I was buying one today, I would either buy a JP 5 or a Mean Arms bearing delay upper and put it on something else. So they are both kind of similar deals. They are sort of knockoffs isn't the right word. Inspired by the MP5 is how those things work, and what it is a bearing delay system where it is trying to separate the extraction of the round from the gun going off. So in a blowback upper like a JP15 and almost every other PCC on the market, the actual round going off happens exactly the same time as the extraction starting, because the round pushing back is what does all of that, hence blowback. There's no gas. The bearing delay thing, all it does is it separates those two actions in time, resulting in a smoother feel, and they are a markedly smoother shooting gun. A lot less perceived dot movement, a lot less perceived recoil. Ironically, my PCC recoils and moves more than my 223 does, despite everything else being exactly the same.
I am not a goat fucker. My PCC, I have two. One I won at the first High Desert Championship from KE Arms, and I SBR'd it. I shot it a little bit locally when our club had this weird thing where they would let you shoot the weeknight league night twice if you shot a PCC. So you could shoot a handgun division and a PCC. They would not, for some reason, hard no-go on just shooting two different pistol divisions, which I don't understand. But I indulged them in that for a little while, just to like get some reps on some carbine skills. But really, if I'm terribly honest, PCC does absolutely nothing for me. I would rather shoot a pistol, any other pistol, than a PCC. The only reason I got my PCC out recently was when Adam and I, and I'm sorry, I forgot his name.
Zach.
And Zach, we teamed up for the Parma 3-man 3-gun event, and that is a Wild West open division match.
It's not actually a 3-gun event. You could kind of put an infinity symbol in the place of the number of guns.
Yeah, it's an arsenal match.
You just empty your entire gun room into your truck and you drive up there. Or in Amax's case, you mail it all to my house and then I put it all in the truck and I drive up there.
Allegedly. But if you shoot a pistol at that match, you're wrong, because everybody else has carbines that have big sticks in them, so they have way more ammo that's way easier to shoot at the same thing. So I shot a PCC there, but like at any other match, like I have less than zero interest of shooting PCC in PCSL or USPSA, if I were just terribly honest. However, if you put a gun to my head and said, this is the only shooting sport you could be in, you have to get one, I would get a JP5 with a 10, 11-inch barrel, and that would be what I would use.
Yep. All right. Platoon Guide says, who makes your sling? Not related, but about 6 months. About 6 months when I was in the U.S. Army in 1992, when our commander, you're using the word when too many times, when our commander took away our slings as punishment to teach muzzle discipline.
Why didn't they frag him?
I was going to say, yeah, I can kind of get
Kidding.
Yeah, getting swept super sucks. So if all I did was take your sling away, you came off light. Who makes your sling? I use the Way of the Gun sling from Frank Proctor. It is a very simplistic 2-point sling that I think nobody else in our sport uses. And I kind of modified it a little bit. I put a kind of like a grab loop cord type thing on the buckle to make it a little bit easier to get a hold of and open it up. I like it because it is very simple and low profile. In our sport, you don't have to carry a gun for more than like a minute. So having something highly padded doesn't really help me. What do you're running a VTAC?
Yep. I know Frank personally. He's awesome dude. And I like his sling. I would probably use it more in a tactical application if my application was tactical. I use the VTAC sling, the non-padded version, actually. That's the first sling I ever bought, and I have bought probably a dozen of them since. The first one I have is still one that I use, but I have them all over the place for all of my personal and professional stuff and to loan out to other people. Because you can take the slack out of them. They have a what would you call it? A slide buckle?
Like a slide buckle, a camming buckle that you
yeah,
can release.
it's got like a slide buckle, and then it's got a big a tab that you pull, and you can dump all the slack out. I put a carabiner on that just so it's a little bit easier to grab. It's a little bit more of a ripcord to grab, and that's what I use. I use the VTAC, and vast majority of people in the sport use VTACs.
That's probably the most
probably
common,
not
but
even
I
close.
bet if you pulled everybody, more than 50% run that, and
Yes.
everybody else runs a smattering of stuff. Next time you see Frank, tell him to bring back his concealed carry belt with the little elastic mag pouch loops, because it was awesome, and I want to buy another one. And as far as I can tell, he doesn't make it anymore, and it's a bummer because that thing was great. Let's see. So Died M6. I am definitely never reading names again. This is a terrible idea. I kind of wanted to give people a little bit of a shout out. Maybe we'll just read names of people who make sense. Do you shoot open with a non-comped pistol? I used to. When I first switched to open, I shot a CZ Shadow 2 with a dot on it while my gun was at the gunsmith, getting the slide cut so I could put a red dot on that. Then for a while, I shot open with a 2011 with a dot on it without a comped barrel. Then I shot the barrel out of my 2011. It would not group anymore to save its own life. And now I have a comped, very weird Frankenstein gun.
It is very weird, and it's good that you can admit that.
Yeah. No, it's like it is not a gun. It's somebody who's like, I should buy that. I'm like, no, you shouldn't. This is where you end up when you buy STI from back in the day, and then you keep trying to make it do all the things that it wasn't designed to do. And that gun will eventually become a backup gun, and I will eventually be shooting something that makes a whole lot more sense. Maxwell does not shoot open with a non-comped pistol because that's ridiculous when you have a safe full of atlases. So he shoots a comped pistol.
So I was the reason that the Erebus exists. All right, you're welcome. But
you mean the Maximus?
yes, the prototype pistol that became the Erebus was made for me, and our joke for a while, and you don't have to call them. Nobody who works there now will get it. But for a while, I had people call in to the sales number and ask for the Maximus because I wanted them to name it the Maximus. And eventually, she said, "Hey, you need to stop doing that." And so I was like, "All right, mission accomplished." But here's the deal: like, are you giving up much not shooting a comped pistol in open? No. However, open is the division where you need every little thing you can get. That is top fuel drag racing. If you're not very, the match is won by not very much, so you don't need to start from the starting gate giving up a little bit.
Yeah.
Shooting minor, people will be like, well, the comp's not really doing very much. It's not doing very much in terms of what a compensator does on a rifle with a lot higher pressure. What it is doing, especially if you dig into some of the history around some of that stuff, if you read Bill Wilson's book of the 1911, or I forget what it's called, but Bill Wilson's book, essentially they talk about the concept of the LE comp in there, the Latham Enos compensator on early Wilson pistols. The idea was that they were altering the lock time or the unlocking time of the barrel so that the recoil impulse would be different. So it's not reducing recoil in the sense that gas is coming out the top and it's pushing your muzzle down, although maybe some of that's happening too. What's happening is all that gas is hitting that front baffle and pushing it forward, which is force that needs to be overcome for your barrel to drop into the unlocked position, which delays it just a little bit more, giving you a little bit flatter sensation and a little bit softer visual presentation of the dot as the gun recoils. Is that a lot? No, probably measured in hundredths of a second. But our sport is won and lost in hundredths of a second. So if you're going into the sport looking at, hey, I want to shoot open division, and you're investing in an open pistol, invest in one with a compensator. Is it the first thing you have to buy? No, because the primary advantage of an open pistol over a modified or attack pistol is the 170 millimeter magazine that holds more bullets.
Yep. Yeah, for open division, I would say the only mandatory to be competitive is an actual functioning box-fed shotgun. I shoot a Dissident. AMAX shoots a Dissident. I'm not sponsored by them. It's just the best thing going, so that's what I bought because I don't want to mess around with it.
Dissident is the list. If you're like, well, what about stop? Dissident is the list.
That's it. If you want to compete at a high level, you have to shoot a box-fed, essentially KS or KL12. I think that's basically the only option.
Worth
two
your money.
Guns are right out. Comped pistol, nice to have, not necessary. You could win with a non-comped pistol.
Yeah. If I were in another division trying to move into open, the pistol would be the last investment that I made.
100%. All right. Knox Dies says, how do you transition the rifle off of your back so fast? Because I'm a ninja, dude. Like I said, I run that Frank Proctor way, the gunsling. I think I operate it in a similar way that everybody else operates their slings, and Maxwell does as well. I have a bit of 550 cord tied into that thing with some tape around it to make it stiff and an easy handle to grab onto. The way that I run my rifle, I sling it the way that you would traditionally sling a rifle if you were carrying a rifle. So if it's in the front, it is over my right shoulder because I'm right-handed, muzzle down facing to the left. When I roll it to my back, the muzzle is facing up and over my right shoulder. The way that I unsling the rifle, I reach down as I'm dumping my pistol. I dump my pistol with my left hand. Again, I'm right-handed. I always dump my pistol with my offhand because I have cut the safety off of the other side of my pistol. So there is not a button on that side of the gun that can get me DQ'd from a match. If I lay it on that side, it can't scrape against any material in the dump barrel and click the safety off. Some matches, that's a full match DQ. Some matches is the big time penalty. But either way, I don't want that to happen. So I always dump my pistol with my left hand. As I am dumping my pistol with my left hand, I'm reaching for that pull cord with my right hand. As soon as the pistol is in the barrel, I am beginning to pull up on that cord while reaching to the buttstock that is down and left. And as I am opening that sling, I am pulling the buttstock down and then around and directly into my shoulder. So there will be a moment in time where I'm hanging on to the rifle by the buttstock while it is connected to my shoulder in the shooting position. As soon as it's around to that spot, I'm grabbing the grip with my right hand, and I am releasing the buttstock to reach for a magazine. Then I am inserting said magazine, charging the rifle and shooting. I am not taking the sling off of my head during that process. The only time I'll take the sling off of my head is if I'm dumping it, and I'll do it generally when I'm dumping the rifle. I'm imagining Maxwell does something kind of similar, although there are, I would say, 3 pretty legit ways to sling and unsling a rifle in the sport of 3-gun.
Yep, I pretty much do a pretty similar thing. And for all the FUDs at home, this is one of those experienced shooters under controlled conditions things. Whenever they're slinging in a match, they're always verifying that your gun's unloaded before they let you start. And there's lots of verbiage they use around this that I don't particularly appreciate, but what happens is they verify it's unloaded, and then the 180 doesn't come into effect until they see you trying to put ammo and the gun together. So you can swing the thing all the way around without getting a 180 DQ until you start trying to load the gun. Then the 180 comes into effect. But I essentially use the same technique as Adam.
And one of the things that I do that I didn't mention but is part of this whole thing, I don't particularly like pointing my gun up range even if I know that it's loaded and somebody else verified that it was. So as a right-handed shooter, I will usually twist my body about 50 degrees to the right. So when I do unsling the rifle, it's happening mostly on the plane of the 180, but more importantly, not pointing directly back at anybody. This doesn't cost any time. It just makes it so my rifle doesn't point directly uprange. So I do that just because I like to not point guns at people if I can avoid it.
Yep. And the muzzle pretty much draws a circle around you, and it really crosses. It doesn't like point at everyone behind you. It really points at the ground like 2 feet behind your feet. But yeah. Anyway, next question.
Anyway, so at SD3 Gunner says, please can you tell me who makes the buttstock you're running on your AR? It looks like the one Daniel Horner uses. I've been trying to track it down with no luck. It's not the one that Daniel Horner uses. Daniel Horner has a signature series Daniel Horner stock, as far as I know, from SIG. Previous to that, I don't remember what he was using, but I know
this one.
All right, send it. What did he use before that?
Okay, so Adam uses an XLR stock. The best place to buy that is under license from Dissident Arms. Dissident Arms has a version of it, and they're our friends. So Dissident Arms is the best place to buy that stock. The one that Daniel Horner uses that he is the most famous for, it was made by a company called TacMod that primarily makes bolt-action chassis, and it is essentially the AR version of that stock off of their chassis. That is the one that you'll see in all the AMU pictures. It has a limb saver butt pad on it and then a big plastic cheek piece. I used that for several years. I have several of them. I only stopped using them because I got tired of bending them, which I did on a few occasions. And eventually they just told me that the only way to fix it was to buy another one. And I was like, haha, I will not. And then when Dan transitioned to SIG, I believe it's the same company making it, but his signature stock has the little foam wrap like the old Ace stocks did, and then it's just the butt pad piece that's still fully articulated and everything. And I actually I got one from him to mount to try. I usually like having the comb piece in there. I think that's probably the most underrated part of the rifle is a properly fitting stock. Yeah. But it's probably made under license by that same company. I doubt SIG actually manufactures that themselves. So, but the old one, the one that I think you're asking about, is made by a company called TacMod, and it is still commercially available. It is very expensive.
Yeah, and the reason I run the XLR one is partly because it's super adjustable. They don't sponsor me. I've paid for all of them, and I have I don't know, 7 maybe. Like I got them on everything because I like all my guns to be the same. But it's super adjustable, so you can run it however you want. I need a very high cheek piece because I have very small cheekbones. And so I actually run mine so high that a lot of people, when they go to borrow my rifle, can't look through my scope.
That's
and the reason I run
true.
it, yeah, super true. But mostly the reason I run it is because it's heavy. And when you're running around with a rifle the way that you do for 3-gun, where you're quite often going in and out of dump barrels, mounting and unmounting the rifle, hanging onto it with one hand while running backwards, things like that, all of your rifle is in front of your grip. And the only thing behind your grip is your stock. So in a strange way, the heavier your stock is, the lighter it makes your rifle feel because it is more in balance and doesn't require as much effort to hold that thing with one hand. So that's why I run those stocks.
Yep. The only reason I don't run that one is just the geometry of it doesn't quite work out well for me. But the stocks that I select, the TAC Mod, the PRS Lights, or Daniel Horner's stock now, for all the same reasons though. I like a heavier stock, full length that locks up solid in the back. That one, I've tried that one. It's just like, it's particularly the comb piece. The comb piece just doesn't land the same for me. But if any of you have ever seen us in real life, Adam, Riser, and I are about as physically statured differently as you could possibly be.
Quite different people.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a running theme throughout, and I think a good thing to point out in general. A lot of high-level shooters do a lot of things very differently. There is some stuff that we all kind of came to the same conclusion on, and a lot of other things, both gear and technique-wise, that we just do differently because we're just different people. You're either built different, your vision's different, the just general preferences are different. Some people are stronger than others.
Your belt will fit inside of mine.
Yeah, Adam can almost wear my belt as a hat. So, yeah, so there's a lot of things that I do specifically because, like, the way that my belt is set up is because I have a 28-inch waist and I don't have a lot of real estate. And from the TAC days, I needed to be able to put like 30 shotgun shells, 3 pistol mags, and 2 rifle mags, and a pistol on my belt. Maxwell doesn't have that problem. He can kind of do whatever he wants.
Real estate prices on Riser's belt are similar to California, and mine are more like Wyoming.
Yeah, I am coastal property in California between the highway and the surf. It is very expensive. All right, that is it for questions for the Adam's YouTube question episode. If you guys have any other questions for us, then you can leave it up either of our social media stuff or on the perf at gmail.com, and we will answer it for you.
I believe it's I believe it is on the perf podcast at
Is it on the perf podcast? I actually haven't even logged in this email yet.
should.
It's all pretty new.
I really should know that before we record now, but now that we're a big boy podcast, we should probably lock that down.
It's definitely one of those. Try both. Who knows?
You'll find it.
You'll find it. Find us on. If you got to, this is probably going to be like episode 6 or 7 or something. If you're here, chances are you already know one of us. Just send us a question. We'll answer it.
Yeah. Or your YouTube is what? Adam Riser. Is it just Adam Riser on YouTube?
Everything is just Adam Riser. Very simple.
My stuff's usually 3-gun AMAX, and you can get me on the gram or on the tube. And you want us to do entertaining morsels like this, you just go ahead and send us some questions, and maybe we'll hit the ball back on them.
Yep.
Until then, though,
we made it out under an hour. We did it.
Keep those overlay cards handy because this one's going to be on the perf, and we'll see you guys next time.